Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to part 13 of my Claude Chabrol season. And today's film is 1975's Pleasure Party, or Une Partie De Plaisir from 1975. This is available on Arrow DVD Volume 2 of Claude Chabrol. And I'll say it up front, this is my least favourite Chabrol of the 13 films that I've done. And I'll get to the reasons for that later on. This is essentially a film about a couple, Philippe and Esther. Again, no Charles and Helene, so we're all coming to. And this film doesn't star any usual Chabrol suspects. This stars Paul Chabrol, which I've probably mispronounced his name, I apologise, who did some writing on Chabrol films. But this actually, he wrote and starred in this, with his ex-wife Danielle Chabrol and their daughter Clemence Chabrol. So already you're on levels of blurring the line between reality and fantasy. I mean, this is obviously years before Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman did Eyes Wide Shut. There are some parallels with Eyes Wide Shut, and perhaps, you know, the reason that I don't particularly find Eyes Wide Shut that engaging or interesting is maybe the same reason that I don't find this film that engaging or interesting. Being Solitary Ronin, films about relationships and marriages and stuff like that isn't really that interesting to me. So the basic premise of this one is you have this couple, Philippe and Esther, played by the Chabrol's, and Philippe suggests that they have an open marriage. Strange enough, I'm sure relationships that have, you know, an open marriage or whatever, I'm guessing probably 99% of the time it's the man who suggests it so he can see other women. But correct me if I'm wrong. So they agree to see other people. They have this kind of incestuous group of friends, and they all seem to be having sex with each other. But then Esther kind of sees one of these men in the group more and kind of develops a relationship with him rather than just having sex with him. And this enrages Philippe. And then they end up splitting up, and Philippe ends up getting married to the ex-wife of the person that his wife is sleeping with, and he makes attempts to get Esther back, leading up to quite a shocking conclusion. Now, one of the reasons that I really don't like this film that much is the lead actor, Paul Chabrol. and obviously the writing of that character. I mean, the actor is quite annoying because he's quite toothy, but that's just a side point. I'm trying to think of another character that I find as annoying as Philippe in this film. He is a boor. He is quite abusive to Esther. There's a couple of scenes that are just like really annoying. You do want to punch him in the face. He's one of those guys who his opinion is always right. He loves spouting off. The group of friends have kind of big philosophical conversations, and Philippe always wants to dominate them. He's just a complete arsehole. But Chabrol, I mean, one of the kind of complaints people have about Chabrol is that he's quite cold. He's quite distancing. His films aren't that engaging, which I kind of disagree with the majority of his films. He does have engaging characters that you root for and you want to spend time with. In this film, he does not. I mean, these characters, you can see it as from a satirical point of view. I mean, Chabrol does kind of distance himself and the audience from some of these characters' behaviours. There's one of the scenes where Philippe is being particularly nasty to his wife, and Chabrol deliberately kind of pulls the camera back, so we're kind of averting our gaze from it. And in this, he certainly is distant. You certainly feel that he doesn't really care about these characters, so why should we care about them? This film, excuse me, is almost like a biological experiment, and Chabrol's the professor, and he's just keeping a distance, and he's just analysing the debris of the relationship, but without actually being involved in it. There's no kind of sweeping camera work in between characters that we sometimes see in Chabrol films. It's all everything's kept at a distance, which is kind of, as an audience, or maybe it's just me, but I want to keep my distance from these people, especially Philippe, because he's just such an arsehole. The child, who is played by the Gogoth's own child, is perhaps the only redeemable character in the film, but she is kind of used as a pawn by Philippe to try and get Esther back. I mean, this is a man who's only interested in himself, his own feelings, even when he's married to Louise, who is the ex-wife of Habib, who is the man that Esther is sleeping with. It's all just for him. He takes Louise to the same place that we see Philippe and Esther at the start of the film, at the seaside, and he just gets upset because it's just remembering what he was like with Esther. And then when you get to the end of the film and he's trying to get Esther to come back to him, it just erupts into something quite shocking that I was just like, okay, that's the final straw. Again, Chabrol just views it very clinically. I don't think in any way he is expecting the audience to root for this guy. or identify with this guy, because if you do, you've probably got a serious problem. And I think, again, that's why it's my least favourite Chabrol, and it's certainly a film that I won't really be revisiting. But it's also, again, one of the criticisms of Chabrol, he's a provocateur, he's manipulative. But certainly this film, as much as I don't like it, I'm sure I won't forget it, just because of the kind of visceral reaction you have to the characters, especially Philippe. So on that level, it's certainly not a forgettable film. It is a well-made film. It's a good film, and it's certainly provocative. But as far as having characters that you're engaged with, characters that you root for, I mean, you perhaps root for Esther a little bit, but again, she's quite blank as a character as well. It's quite an infuriating film at times, especially because you literally want to put hands on Philippe for being such an arse. But again, it's shot as almost like a cold, detached experiment. And on that level, I guess it works. So please let me know in the comments below if you have seen Une Partie De Plaisir, or Pleasure Party, and what you thought of it. Maybe I've completely got it wrong, but for me this is the least enjoyable of Chabrol's films up to this point in the 13 films that I've looked at so far. But it's certainly not one that you forget quickly, and it does have that kind of visceral reaction to it. So again, please leave comments below. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about the film, and hopefully you'll see me again for Claude Chabrol Part 14. This is Solitaire Ronin from Solitaire Ronin Films, saying farewell.